Hi, I'm Maya. For me, fashion isn't clothing. It's art, philosophy, and responsibility. I founded Ethos Atelier not to flood the world with cheap goods. My brand was synonymous with sustainability, handcrafted quality, and transparency. Every thread and every dye had a story that I personally verified. Our success was built on exclusivity and ethics.
I worked with two people I trusted with my life and my business. Rachel was my childhood best friend. She handled operations, was the voice of reason, and led negotiations. I, the artist, relied on her business acumen. She believed in my talent. Victor was the investor. Cynical, cold, interested only in figures. He gave us the seed capital, but always pushed for scaling and cost reduction. He was a necessary evil we tolerated for creative freedom.
Our real breakthrough came with the FS collection. It was my most personal, brilliant line, utilizing a unique, complex dyeing technology and recycled materials. The most important thing we created wasn't the dresses themselves, but a unique, fully traceable supply chain. This system was our true intellectual property, ensuring our product couldn't be copied without violating ethics. The Ethos collection attracted the attention of the world's largest conscious consumption retailer. We were on the verge of a multi-million-dollar contract. A week before signing the big retailer contract, Victor called an emergency meeting. He stated that to work with such a large partner, we needed to restructure the company to meet their standards. Maya, your name and talent remain our face, but to get the grant for production expansion and protect us from the retailer, you must transfer the controlling interest and rights to the supply chain into a management fund. Rachel will handle everything. I trust her more than anyone, he pressed.
Rachel looked me in the eye, reassuring me, "It's a pure formality, Maya. You know we're doing this for our ethical future together." Without hesitation, I signed a stack of legal documents, relying on my friend's word. It was the most expensive signature of my life. 3 days later, I arrived at our loft studio and found my electronic key didn't work. My work accounts were blocked. Inside sat Rachel. "Maya, you are no longer a board member, and you no longer own the rights to the Ethos collection. Victor used the documents you signed to buy out your share and the rights to all intellectual property. It was his condition for investment from the beginning," she said without looking up. "I'm sorry, but business is business." My heart broke, not from the loss of money, but from what I saw on Rachel's desk. It was a new, gigantic contract with a factory in Bangladesh, a major producer of cheap, unethical, fast fashion. They didn't just steal my brand. They stole my soul and turned my art into garbage.
3 days later, I arrived at our loft studio and found my electronic key didn't work. My work accounts were blocked. Inside sat Rachel. "Maya, you are no longer a board member, and you no longer own the rights to the Ethos collection. Victor used the documents you signed to buy out your share and the rights to all intellectual property. It was his condition for investment from the beginning," she said, without looking up. "I'm sorry, but business is business." My heart broke, not from the loss of money, but what I saw on Rachel's desk. It was a new, gigantic contract with a factory in Bangladesh, a major producer of cheap, unethical, fast fashion. They didn't just steal my brand, they stole my soul and turned my art into garbage. My first step was seeing a lawyer. The attorney delivered the verdict. "Maya, you signed the transfer of rights to the intellectual property related to the Ethos collection and, most importantly, to your entire unique supply chain, which was the brand's true value." Victor had secured full control over production, and I was left without design rights and without ethical leverage. Legally, I was an artist consultant whose services were no longer required. Fighting their corporate lawyers was futile. 2 months later, they launched their new brand, Ethos Global. They used my Ethos collection, but Rachel spoke of revolutionary scaling and new affordability. My ethical, exclusive clothing had been turned into fast fashion. Part 3 of 5. Victor and Rachel immediately launched a campaign to discredit me. Leaks appeared in the press claiming I was unstable, not ready for growth, and too obsessed with non-commercial ideals. I became the crazy artist they had to remove to save the business. My truth was ignored. Victor and Rachel immediately launched a campaign to discredit me. Leaks appeared in the press claiming I was unstable, not ready for growth, and too obsessed with non-commercial ideals. I became the crazy artist they had to remove to save the business. I was ignored. No one wanted to hear my side of the story because the narrative of a new, cheap, and trendy brand sold better than a story about betrayal.
My emotional breakdown began. I sat in my empty New York loft, unable to draw. My art was out there, on the street. I saw my unique, heartfelt designs now worn by students, bought for pennies, made from toxic plastics in inhumane conditions. This was not just theft. It was the destruction of my legacy and the desecration of my mission. Every passerby in my Ethos Global dress was a reminder of how Rachel and Victor had sold my soul.
At my lowest point, I realized I couldn't beat them at their own game, in court or in the factory. If they could mass-produce the physical, I had to create something that couldn't be copied, something that would remain unique and ethical forever. I had to step into a world where value is determined not by the number of units sold, but by a unique digital signature. I decided to use new technologies to create art that would belong to me and only me, protected by code, not a paper contract. I realized that the real scarcity in the world was not quality fabric, but authenticity. If they could copy my physical designs and desecrate my ethics, I would leave for a world where copying is impossible. I closed my loft, sold the remnants of my old equipment, and moved to California. My new project was Ethos Atelier. This was not a clothing store. It was a digital couture studio. Ethos Atelier specialized in creating unique, one-of-a-kind digital garments, protected by NFT technology. These were high art pieces intended for celebrities, the metaverse, or ultra-exclusive collectors who valued the right of sole ownership. Every digital thread had a unique code that could not be mass replicated. This was the perfect defense against fast fashion. It was difficult at first. Traditional investors didn't understand digital fashion. My paranoia, following the betrayal by Rachel and Victor, was immense. I was afraid even to speak about my algorithms. I didn't need an investor. I needed a protector who understood digital property. That's how I met Leo. He was the co-founder of one of the most influential IP protection platforms in the digital world, a billionaire obsessed with authenticity and creators' rights. He heard my story about Ethos Global and reached out to me. "Maya, you lost because your code was on paper and your partner was human," Leo said at our first meeting. "But in the digital world, the rules are different. Here, code is law." He wasn't trying to buy my idea. He was trying to buy my protection. Leo offered me a partnership that was the complete opposite of the deal with Victor. He offered me the position of Chief Creative Director of his new digital art ecosystem. His platform would provide all the technical, legal, and financial protection, guaranteeing that 90% of all digital rights and future designs remain mine via smart contracts. "You will be the face of ethical digital art," he said. "No paperwork, no loopholes, no scaling at the expense of quality. Only exclusivity. No one can steal your Ethos Atelier because it's built on the blockchain, not on trust." Leo invested in my inviolability. He became my perfect partner.
ethical, technically savvy, and so powerful that no one in the fashion world could compete with him. With Leo and Aura Atelier, I was ready for vindication. I was no longer creating cheap clothes for millions. I was creating priceless art for the exclusive few. And that art could not be mass-produced. Leo launched Aura Atelier with incredible fanfare. We didn't spend money on conventional advertising. Our advertising was exclusivity. The first digital collection was auctioned off as NFT tokens for a total of tens of millions of dollars. They were essentially the most expensive virtual dresses in the world. Hollywood stars and metaverse moguls lined up to own a piece of my art, which was guaranteed against copying thanks to Leo's blockchain technology. I had created a brand that Victor couldn't buy, even with all his investments.
Meanwhile, Ethos Global began to crumble. Without my genius, the SAM v2.0 equivalent, and more importantly, without my ethical conscience, the brand quickly lost its soul. Rachel failed to manage the logistics of mass, unethical production. A loud scandal erupted when reports showed horrific labor conditions in their Bangladesh factories. Their stolen slogan about conscious consumption became a global joke.
Consumers who were initially drawn in by the low prices turned away from Ethos Global. Their collection, my old stolen Ethos collection, became associated with cheap fast fashion and labor exploitation. The retailer, for whom Victor and Rachel betrayed me, terminated their contract, fearing reputational risk. Victor, focused only on profit, missed the main point. You cannot scale ethics.
In the midst of the scandal, they made one last desperate attempt. They sued me, accusing me of unfair competition due to name similarity and idea usage. It was pure irony, but Leo simply chuckled. His legal team, armed with blockchain contracts, tore their lawsuit to shreds. My IP protection was unassailable.
I saw Victor and Rachel on the news trying to justify themselves, looking pathetic and lost. Their project, built on lies, led to their complete financial and reputational collapse. I received an email from Victor. He, who deemed me unstable, was now begging for help. He wrote that they needed new creative energy and asked me to temporarily return as a consultant to design a new, more ethical, physical line and save the brand from bankruptcy. He offered me a huge sum. I replied with just one sentence. Victor, I no longer trade in volume. I trade in value. You stole my ethics to get millions of buyers. I created my own to get billions in valuation, and not a single unethical stitch. Good luck with your bankruptcy. This was my final victory. They wanted to steal exclusivity and make it massive. I made my art so exclusive that it became literally priceless, while their stolen mass product turned into useless trash. Today, Aura Atelier is more than a fashion brand. It's a statement. We proved that the future of art and design is not in cheap replication, but in verified authenticity and exclusivity. My digital collections sell at auction, and every owner knows their piece is unique. I created not just a fashion empire, I built a digital fortress for my creativity. As for Rachel and Victor, the scandals, the lawsuits from major counterparties, analogous to FarmCorp for financial damage, and most importantly, the reputational collapse of Ethos Global led to their complete destruction. Victor's fund lost hundreds of millions due to the brand's implosion, which was built on lies. Rachel became an outcast in the ethical business world. They wanted to steal exclusivity and make it massive, but in the end, they destroyed the only thing that had value, the idea itself. Leo taught me the key rule. If you are a genius, your main enemy is the human factor and paper contracts. Since then, I trust only algorithms. I lost my best friend and my old vision,
But I gained a partner who values my art and a system that protects it better than any lawyer. Many told me I should have gone back, fixed Ethos Global, and restored its ethics. They said millions of people need accessible, ethical clothing. But I realized I wasn't obliged to save what they desecrated. I was obliged to create something completely new. My revenge was not about sending them to prison, but about depriving them of the ability to compete with me. I entered a world where their old, unethical rules simply don't work. I showed that true value doesn't depend on the factory. It depends on the creator's signature. Remember, your main power is your unique creative energy. Don't waste energy fighting the old. Create V2.0 that is so unique, their V1.0 becomes obsolete trash. They can steal a sketch, but they cannot steal your vision for the next priceless masterpiece. I saved my art by building a digital empire protected by code, but I still wonder, is creating Ethos Atelier the best form of retribution? Or should I have gone back and publicly exposed all their unethical manufacturing schemes? Write your opinion in the comments. If this story about the triumph of art and ethics resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Let's prove that authenticity always defeats forgery.